Hey guys, welcome back to Small Trees. I posted a poll recently and a lot of people said they'd like to see a video on moss propagation, so I put together a little something for you. A lot of you also said you'd like some updates on other projects, and I'll have those videos coming as soon as my trees grow a little more. Today, I'm going to give you a little overview on moss, how it grows, where it grows, and how to propagate it. I got a little carried away when I was filming, and so you'll get to see a little art project today as well. There are many different species of moss, but in this video I used ones that I found near my home, thread moss and hypnum moss. Moss differs from plants in a few ways. Most species do not really have roots and instead depend on direct contact with moisture to survive. This is one reason that moss needs to be kept in a moist or humid area. Moss also differs in reproduction. It can form spores which are carried on the wind and must land in a moist area in order to grow. It can also reproduce asexually. For us, that means that we can put moss in a blender, chop it up finely, and spread it over a large area to start our own moss garden. If you want to make your own moss garden or cover the soil surface of your trees with moss, the good news is that you should be able to find some just about anywhere that stays fairly warm and wet. This includes urban areas. Moss is very opportunistic and it will grow on concrete, on roofing, and just about anywhere else you can think of. In my climate, direct sunlight seems to weaken moss. You can see the difference here. If you live in a cooler or more temperate zone, you may be able to grow moss in full sunlight. We're going to focus on two methods of propagation. The first is to rely on the asexual reproduction of moss and finally grind it, add liquid to make a slurry, and then apply it to whatever area we want to be covered with moss. I'm using buttermilk because it's thick and it makes a paste that will stick to vertical surfaces a little better. I don't believe that there are additional benefits to using buttermilk, so feel free to substitute something else. Water will work just fine if you're covering a horizontal surface. Try to keep animals away from the mixture for a few days, as they seem to like to lick it, which kind of ruins the whole project. Ideally, you would want the moss to be chopped more finely than this, but the food processor that I used didn't do a very good job. I recommend using a cheap food processor if you want to try this at home because moss can wrap around the blade quickly and ruin it. Hopefully this will stick and be stable for long enough to start growing again. Don't be alarmed if it appears that green mold has grown where you spread the mixture. When moss is finely ground like this, it will sometimes revert to its juvenile form or protonemal form. This looks a lot like mold or algae, but it's a good sign that your moss is alive. This will eventually grow into the moss that you're looking for. The second method of propagation involves digging up small sections of moss and pressing them into the soil so that they spread on their own. You can take small pieces of moss from an already established area and the remaining moss will fill the void quickly. This is a sustainable way to harvest moss for your projects. If you were waiting for it, here's the part where I got carried away. I've recently rewatched the Lord of the Rings series, and this moss reminds me way too much of the grassy meadows of the Shire for me to ignore it. What started as a lesson on propagation quickly turned into a modest reproduction of Bag End. Try not to judge too harshly. I think it turned out pretty well in the end, but let me know what you think. I'll see you again when I finish. I'll leave you today with a stroll up to the door of Bag End. Maybe we'll meet a hobbit who never used to go on any adventures or do anything unexpected. Either way, this is a home fit for a halfling. I'll keep this under my bench and away from any birds who might try to make a nest of it. Make sure to mist your moss frequently to help it thrive. Hopefully you enjoyed watching this as much as I enjoyed making it. Until next time.